I rise to speak in favor of Representative Becker-Finn's amendment. I have deep concerns regarding this anti-protester bill. In addition to the myriad of pressing issues that have been raised with regards to this bill's trampling of the First Amendment, I want to raise concern that this bill would also have on workers who are fighting for a better life for themselves and for their families at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. As you know, the workers who are contracted as baggage handlers, cabin cleaners, cart drivers, wheelchair agents, unaccompanied minor escorts, and lavatory and water service fillers, those who make the airport function, are at MSP fought for over 5 years to join a union, SEIU Local 26, something that they accomplished in November of last year. It was an uphill battle and one that highlighted the painful dichotomy in our state, where massive corporations reap eye-watering profits while our state has one of the worst racial disparities in the country. These workers are mostly East African, and for years these mothers and fathers have been paid minimum wage with no benefits, despite being contracted to provide essential services to some of the largest and most profitable airlines in the world. But in 2011, they came together and began to fight back. In the beginning, they were roundly ignored, but they never gave up. In the last 5 years, they've won real change in their industry, including a pay raise and 9 paid sick days so they don't have to choose between their paycheck and the health of their families. One of the most successful tools used to help move their fight forward was peaceful protests at the airport. And yes, they sometimes block traffic. Joined by community supporters, they marched, picketed, and rallied numerous times simply as a way to get their voices heard and to have their story come out of the shadows. On one occasion, community supporters even blocked the road at the airport and were arrested in peaceful civil disobedience to draw attention to the crisis. There were leaders from the East African community and disability rights advocates who spoke up in support of the workers who help allow their families be able to travel. Do you understand that by voting for this draconian bill, you are silencing the voices of Minnesotans, like these airport workers who are fighting for a better life for their families? I can promise each and every one of you that the airport workers who took part in these protests, many of whom have multiple jobs to pay their bills, would have preferred to have been doing something fun or relaxing instead of having to protest during their free time, simply to be heard in their fight for basic dignity. But like too many Minnesotans, especially low-wage worker and people of color and indigenous folks, they were not given that luxury. By disrupting the status quo, these workers got the attention of their bosses, the Airport Commission, the media, and politicians. They stepped outside of the lines because the system inside the lines is set up for corporations and CEOs to win every single time. So if you believe yourself to be a member who is committed to fighting for economic, racial, and social justice, there are already plenty of reasons for you to vote against this undemocratic bill. But if for some reason you continue to believe it's a good idea, I'd like you to think about what it means to silence the voices of Minnesotans fighting for a more equitable life for their families. Airport workers today have a union, and they are paving the way for a better life for themselves and for their families. With every victory they achieve, our whole state wins, as it raises standards and helps to cut into the racial and economic gaps that are an embarrassment to Minnesota. But they wouldn't have gotten to that point if they had not been able to protest in a peaceful way that drew attention to a cause that had been ignored for years. At this important time in our history of our state and of our country, don't take away the voice of the people who are fighting for a better life for themselves and for their children. Peaceful protest is the bedrock of social change and of our democracy. And this is a thinly veiled threat to erode that very basic principle. Please vote in favor of Representative Becker-Finn's amendment to remove this harmful provision from the bill. Thank you.